Roirin's journals. The siege is going well. Zalak Field has fallen. The beings on that plane barely any challenge at all. Their worshippers barely giving them power. We have our eyes set on Mount Celestia next. That should provide more of a challenge, as it has a few gods that are more popular. We've cleared 2 planes of Celestials and have only lost 5 Reclaimers. Note to self, make sure the contingencies are on before the Reclaimers engage in battle. Silver Fields of Eternity are cleared out. A few of the gods are left alive. They're just powerful enough that they still are semi-popular. We will leave them alive so that we don't have to deal with the reconstituted forms when their followers make them again. We are required back on Mare Taladon. Master has summoned us all back. Seems the mortals have sensed their gods are being destroyed and are causing issues. We will bury our dead and then head back. The 3,000 or so foot soldiers we lost will be recovered soon enough. My concern is the Reclaimers we've lost. There's no promising candidates in the new generation of Seekers. Their situations are even more grim. Vasar has informed me that the campaign against the higher planes will be on hold. The new plan is taking out some more of the fiends. A young upstart is rallying the devils, causing issues at the Aegis line. The Reclaimers there powering the barrier will not be able to keep the hordes back if this horde comes to the line. We need to keep the demons and devils fighting each other until we can recover from the miscellaneous campaigns we've done. The cloning vats can only produce so many. I'll be part of the team going to the 12 hells and trying to disrupt the growing horde. However, the devils were made, they respawn on the hells, but if killed there, they stay dead, so our best chance is taking them out there. We have 20 Reclaimers to do this. No foot soldiers. The 3 companies will be at the defense line to hold back the horde along with 3 Reclaimers. We seized a stronghold in the hells. A devil wished to prove his might, an upstart named Asmodeus. We laid waste to his army and informed him of the error of his ways. Unfortunately, it cost 5 Reclaimers to do so. The lands were unstable and we had to evacuate. I've gotten word that and another layer was lost. We are resting and recovering as we wait for word from the Archmage. I do hope he gives us a break for a bit. We are all used to expelling vast amounts of energy, but even so, these long campaigns are starting to wear on us all. A few of the fallen Reclaimers wouldn't have fallen if we just had a bit of rest. I've even noticed a fluctuation in my potency, especially close to the end of the fighting of the hells. Few miscellaneous minor updates before. We got our rest, nearly 3 years of rest. Master put on hold all extra planar campaigns. The only times we had to go is if the fiends got really out of hand or the Celestials thinking that they could get revenge on us. We lost 4 companies of troops and 2 training sites, but we drove them off. Experimentation to amplify my sword has succeeded. The addition of the crystallized energy makes it look ornate, but it is as powerful as ever. We all got issued some new ranged weapon. An arcane blaster is what they call it. We will see how well it works. I'll be leading a small excursion to look for some new recruits, so it'll be the perfect time to test it out. The excursion went well. The group will provide excellent recruits for the army. The arcane blaster is odd. I'm not sure if it's good or bad yet, but I'll go to Daythuland and do some target practice. Orcs and ogres make excellent practice since they attempt to swarm. The blaster does all right, but can't handle a horde. Its charge only lasts a few hundred shots. It's more accurate than a hand crossbow, but failing in the middle of a fight will be an issue. I'm not bothering noting the kill count of the target practice. No point in adding a few hundred count to the tally since they're just orcs. Tahara let me know her count went up a few dozen. Well, while I was testing the blaster, she was relieving some pressure at the defense line. I had to remind her that those don't count since they're not actually dead and just sent back. We then spent the next 4 days hunting them down on their home planes to make sure they counted. We netted even since I had to cover her. A few promising recruits from Wizard's Guild have been vetted. They are being trained now. There's a few promising ones. Alivor of Esktar and Alconard are the top contenders. We have bets on who's going to make it. We will all be spending some time traveling the continent making sure everything's fine as the planners make preparations for new campaigns. I think it's time to work on a new mask. A few miscellaneous updates and musings before. The recruits are progressing nicely. Alconard has gone missing. A shame, since he was a rare breed that was more interested in the nature mechanics of the weave. I guess the spot for Archmage's apprentice was more sought after from Alivor. It's cute she didn't think we'd notice a basilisk wandering around shortly after her main rabble went missing from the gardens. We're on Mount Celestia now. They're prepared this time. The guards have released Planetars and Divas along with the standard Archons to go against us. It's interesting they are decent fighters, but are held back by needing to protect civilians. On the plane there seems to be some mortals that migrated there to serve their gods before dying. They are of little consequence. They just make it easier to weaken the gods. I'm out of the fight for now. A diva got a lucky shot in when I was distracted defending against a swarm of Archons. I almost wasn't going to make it, but a group of soldiers came up and distracted them long enough for the sergeant to pull me away. I won't forget his bravery. His chevrons means he's new. He will make an excellent donor. I sent in the paperwork for Sergeant Cherise to be amplified. It's going to be about a week before I can go fight again. I've heard this plane is costing us more and more. Already a dozen reclaimers have fallen. Those areas now uninhabitable as their contingencies went off. Last I heard, 4,000 soldiers were gone. Pretty sure dead, but no bodies. Most assuredly just evaporated. Tahara has reinforced us. She brings free reclaimer recruits along with 30 new companies of freshly made soldiers. This will be fun. I'm up on her 267 to her none on this plane. The battle was interesting. A mountaintop hold that was out of worshippers. That was no issue. The issue is they had a demigod with them. It wiped out 2 companies of soldiers before I got there. Another notch in my tally. 378 to Tahara's 56. As per usual, the worshippers don't count, as the numbers would get out of hand too fast. A most interesting day today. I'll be able to fight for a few days. My mask needs to be repaired now. I'm quite anxious to talk to the prisoner who did it. Our mask was extremely hard to damage, yet she knocked it off and damaged it. We were going to assault a fortified keep of one of the defense gods. Those are always interesting, as they have traps set up in mazes that are quaint to go through. We were heading through a village that was recently abandoned, yet a commotion caught my attention. When I got to the town square, a score of troops lay dead at a figure's feet as she was dispatching another couple of the troops. I watched as it was a rather impressive display. I calmly walked up to dispatch her, but as she spun around, she actually caught my mask and cracked it as she knocked it off. I couldn't help but be impressed. I drew my sword and figured that the least I could do was give her a warrior's death. I must say, I fought against a myriad of creatures in my long service to the Archmage, most being of little consequence. Greater Tanari, divas, gods, they matter not. But this figure in front of me fought with a skill and ferocity I hadn't experienced in a long time. A master bladesmith with her twin sickles. I, of course, won't let the others know, but she actually scored a few hits on me. I am most impressed. Tahara must never know. She would never let me live it down. A mortal could best me. I was hard-pressed to win, but with troops coming in to reinforce the dead squad, I had to work fast. Something about her made me think better just slaughtering her, so I let a magic surge go and knocked her out, which took a bit of doing as she resisted some of it. I ordered the guards to take her back to the camp and put her in a cell. We needed some information. While prisoners are rare, they aren't that unheard of. The damages she did was most impressive. Even now, as I write my entry, my wounds haven't healed fully. A most impressive meeting has occurred. The prisoner was a little feral at first, but calmed after a bit of persuasion. She informed me she was a half-celestial. Her father was a mortal and her mother was a minor god I didn't recognize. I've sent word to see if we've killed her. We talked, and I offered her food and drink. She hesitantly ate it. I assured her if I wanted her dead, I would have killed her in the square, and she relented. I normally don't care about the mortals. Ever since becoming a reclaimer and seeing the truth, I don't see the point in them beyond the experimentation. I have no malice for the Celestials we exterminated. They are nothing more than annoyance, for they brought it on themselves. The troops we now use on them we could have used to march into the 12 Hells and the Abyss and close the weakened fabric between Meritaladon and the Fiend's homeland to prevent the portals from opening as much, but they stopped the old generals, saying that it would be an unnecessary slaughter of the troops for a little gain. So they brought this on themselves, especially with the portals opening more frequently. They must learn that actions, or lack thereof, have consequences. This one is different, though. As we talked, her voice was so melodic. I'm not sure if she was trying to cast a spell or if they normally have that cadence, and without my mask, I was more exposed. But I had to be careful. She let me know that hearing we were going after the fort, she was happy and knew her sacrifice was worth it. Apparently that fort could never fall. Most interesting. The prisoner was sort of correct. The fort wasn't going to fall. Luckily, Tahara was leading the charge, and with the aid of some of Masterwork golems, to absorb the magic, it sort of fell. We lost too many troops, so we had to fall back. I do wish my mask was ready so I could have helped Tahara. Perhaps she wouldn't have been wounded if I was there. I had to stop some guards from attacking the prisoner in anger. Sergeant Cherise came with the reinforcement, so I put him in charge of guarding the prisoner. I know he won't fail me with his troops. The word has come. We're abandoning the fight. Something has happened on Meritaladon. All troops have been ordered to evacuate. I'm writing this as I sit with the prisoner. She's meditating. She looks so at peace, her olive skin perfect with her rounded face with a good jawline. The years of fighting she said she's done not showing at all. her body a toned warrior with nice long black hair, a rarity in the celestial realm. I released the prisoner today. I couldn't bring myself to kill her. I gave her weapons back and let her go before destroying our camp. I was the last through the portal. The sight of Mertalon was something I wasn't expecting. The half-dozen reclaimers powering the defense line to stop spells from making it pass from the fiends were slaughtered. The troops stationed there mercilessly slaughtered. The high priests of the gods that used the bastions as temples were smug and informed us that they knew what we were doing. That the Wizards Guild is no longer welcome at the Aegis line. They would be sending word back to the kingdoms about them taking over the defense. Versar was there. He was the lead reclaimer as the other high mages were elsewhere. I didn't think a mortal could scream so much, but I suppose having your skin flayed off layer by layer as you weren't allowed to pass out or be healed would do that. Word was sent back that the Aegis line was empty, that new soldiers were needed to reinforce it. The entire contingent was gone. Word went out that all Arcanum forces were to fall back to the Citadel. We waited here for a few weeks waiting for the others to come back from their campaigns, repelling the fiendish hordes when they attack as we wait for the new Aegis warriors. All the bodies are cleaned up and disposed of. Interesting enough, Elevor took them. She said that her experiments could use some bodies. I don't really like necromancers, but she's becoming a star pupil. All the forces are back except for Tana. Seems there's an issue on a celestial plane. My mask is done, so I volunteered to go see what was taking him so long. Tana was not on the plane he was supposed to be on. The camp was deserted, only a couple bodies were left. I followed the trail through a few portals. They went to Mechanus. I followed them and seen what had happened. The Triad had launched an attack on the retreating forces of Tana and took him along with the officers. I made my way in and found them. I was too late. He was a babbling mess as his insides were on tables. His mask was not there. I had no choice. The mask couldn't fall into their hands. My blade never had a reclaimer's blood on it before, and I do hope it never again has it on it. I went off and looked for the mask. I found a creature looking over it. I don't know what it was, and it didn't last long enough for me to identify it. I took the mask and made my way out. I should have expected the trap, being on the plane of order, but I was distracted. Coming out of the tower I seen in the field before me, there was a host of angels. The leader commanded me to put down my weapons and to surrender. Angelic flesh does look good as it fades from existence when it disintegrates. Another thought they could take me, a simple command of die, made it rethink its simple thoughts as it expired. I'm old, older than most, and I didn't get here by being a fool. But I must admit, in that moment, all I could think of was my old friend flayed out on a torture rack. My energy reserves are pretty extensive, especially being pretty fully rested, but this host was more powerful than I expected. I wasn't going to let them win and my contingencies to activate. As it surrounded me, all I could think of was that melodic voice I heard weeks ago as I grasped one of my wands and snapped it. A fully charged magic item does make a good explosion. Next thing I knew, I was hurling through the astral sea. I shut my eyes and just replayed that song through my head. Next thing I knew, I hit something hard. I couldn't help but smirk a bit when I heard a voice say that I was back for a rematch. As my vision came to and I sat up, I seen the half-celestial in a small bluff. She helped me up and asked me what I was doing there. I explained. I don't know why, but it was nice to talk to her. Her facial expressions were from disbelief when I said I followed Tana to Mechanus, to, I think, upset and horror when I explained how I found him. I think she thought I was a normal human and she tried to comfort me. She put a hand on my shoulder and I must admit, it felt different. The moment was cut short as I had to duck under some rocks as Archons flew overhead, in what seemed like a search pattern. She could have flagged them down and told them I was there, but she didn't. She sat with me until they passed. She asked what I had been doing for the last 5 years. That did catch me off guard, as for me it was only a few weeks. I informed her, and she was once again horrified at the slaughter of the Aegis line. I'm not sure if it was what happened to the defenders or the scum that ambushed them. She told me that what she had been doing, rebuilding the villages after our assault. While I couldn't be bothered to care about the rebuilding of the villages, her tone was relaxing and I couldn't help but lean back and relax. We spent the next few days in that bluff as I recovered. When I was recovered enough, we said goodbye and went on our way. I opened a gate to Mare Taladon. When I got there, it was different. The battered defense line was more battered and the ground seemingly corrupted. A rider came out and brought me back to the fort. I thought for sure it was a trap, but it seemed in the few years since the massacre people didn't remember it. I found out that no one's seen her reclaimer in years. I will need to investigate this tomorrow. Now I will rest and finish this entry. I found out what happened. The retreat was successful. It's been about a week since the previous entry. I went back to the Citadel and the army was there. The troops put into a slumber to awake when we needed them again, and the reclaimers tallying after decades of fighting. I am concerned. No one's seen the Master since the retreat. The High Mages aren't as concerned as he's the Archmage. With his pet, he'll be fine. They are more concerned on the state we are in. We only had a few hundred to start with, and we were down to less than a few dozen. We are having an assembly soon. This is the last for a while. It has been decided it is time for us to step back. We can't risk more reclaimers, especially after what I told them happened to Tana. Only a few reclaimers will be allowed to go to Mirtaladon at any given time. The Citadel is being shifted for its protection. I have no idea how many years it's been. The Wizards Guild has been a letdown. It's my turn to watch over the plane. No good recruits are around. The previous groups said in their tenure only a few were potential, and they failed to make it past being a seeker. I've been seeding some acolytes. Hopefully they succeed in growing in power. I've seen the reports of a few of the wizards we were going to make reclaimers that stayed behind haven't been heard from. If you see this, the clergy has found old texts. They've ordered the guild destroyed, or those hereticus it's being called. Any arcane user will be hunted down. I'm going to be defending the guild to my last breath. I've sent some of the acolytes to the Citadel with word of what's happening, with the explicit orders for the army not to come. We can't risk any more reclaimers. Kat and I will be the only ones to fall if it comes to that. I will stay here in the main hall in Sophium Olympica. She goes to the one in Voltur to help defend it. And then, in a weird writing, Master Roirin has told me to write this text. He is busy defending the tower from the Divine District. We lost so many of the Masters. I don't know where he came from, but his powers even outmatches that of the Archmage Council. The thing he wanted me to write is this. Elvira is found. Her tower is assaulted. She's defending against the tyrants, or followers of Tyr. I'm not sure, as he was shouting over casting spells. A laboratory will not fall, as she has helped to end the Blood War. If this is a magic tome and someone sees this, send help! Too many of the Magistars have fallen. No news from the Archmages, and the clergy has turned the lords and their peoples against us. There was an explosion today in the Commons room, where some of the younger acolytes were hiding. Master Roirin flew into a rage when he seen the damage. He walked out of the tower. We tried to stop him as he was like a barbarian. He charged out and each swing was a miniature sun forming. He laid waste to the attackers. They surrounded him and all we heard was a chuckle and then a growl as a massive creature leapt past us. A mage appeared in Archmage robes and walked calmly past. Close the door, was all he said. 20 minutes later it opened and in came the figure helping a wounded Master Roirin in. It looked like 2 blocks in all directions were obliterated. Thank you for sending help, whoever reads this. The acolyte wasn't wrong. The people turned against the guild, forgetting we were the ones protecting them. They are oh so much more fragile than fiends or celestials. The miniature suns were just me casting fireballs as they are excellent crowd control. Hopefully he didn't read the previous entries. The robed figure was Master. He heard this was going to fall and he said, "In no future or plane of existence will some gnats take one of my towers. I don't know what this creature is that he created, but I want one. Or 10. The clergy has sent word that they want to have a parley. Master has no words and left it up to me. I have accepted out of sheer curiosity, and so their higher-ups will be in one place for me to take out if needed. It will take place after we bury the 63 young acolytes they murdered." I was not expecting that. The envoy was led by a half celestial. She kept her composure and informed the clergy wishes a truce. A war between the two factions would only harm the continent. I couldn't help but agree, since the Master's decree that the continent needed to survive and we need to protect the civilians. I was more than willing to talk, and we did. After I killed the 4 commanders that accompanied her, the field commanders that authorized everything that has happened since they assaulted the tower. It did delay the talks as she thought it was an attack, and I explained that they had slaughtered the acolytes whose one crime was wanting to learn the weave. We talked for the next day. I sent a report on what's happened to the Citadel. Kat has informed me that her defense was successful, but 3 of the allied wizards nearby was lost, including Elevor's. The last few weeks have been interesting. The Shino stayed after the parley and looked around the city asking questions. I told her of this plane and explained what was going on. She seemed sad at what's happened. I don't understand why, but it was good to see her again after all this time. It's good to see at least something good comes from being part Celestial, as she has a longer lifespan. The repairs are going nicely along to the tower. We will never let it be known, but our numbers are nearly depleted. Less than 100 wizards survived, and most of those acolytes as the masters for the frontline defense. This reminds me too much of the loss of the Reclaimers. The Shino left today. The last few weeks were nice. Being around her made all the stress seem to melt away, which is an odd feeling. I have a few more months on my watch. I quietly traveled to Voltur to check on Kat. She was doing alright as the army was concerned with the allied wizards mostly. I checked on them and 2 seemed to have teleported their towers away. 1 was still standing, but the one that's concerning was Elevor. It seemed she was the focus. Tens of thousands strong. Even though it's been weeks since the parley, they were still fighting. By the time I made it to her tower, it was too late. Her contingencies were in place and her laboratory was lost. I won't break the seal as I don't know what that'll entail. My watch is done. I'm back on the Citadel. It's rest time. Before I forget, I do need to wake up a bit earlier, as it would be nice to meet with Shino again before she got too old and wouldn't be able to be coherent. My slumber was interrupted. All hands on deck. Master has called a personal guard to Mertaladon. Vazar showed us what happened. The Aegis defense line was shattered. The guards pushed back and was losing ground. 748 years. That's how long it's been. The minor guild I believed was referred to as the Adventurers Guild has now become a prominent guild. The Wizards Guild has been rebuilt. Half of us will be going to the lines and holding them, reminding the mortals what a wizard can do. The others will be at the disposal of Master. Apparently he has plans that's needing our minds and power. Miscellaneous planning and logistic entries. This area is very different from when I was last here. The area leveled in the betrayal has been walled off and is under the auspice of the Wizards Guild. I'm part of the Magister logistics team. For now we stay hidden and use our powers to help with a war. I do need to meet with a giant that's taken to the arcane arts. Seems Master wants them trained a bit better. Tahan will be training while I hand over the tools needed. I don't see that one being very competent. Smart for a cloud giant, sure, but dimwit for a wizard. I don't see what the Master sees, but he has his plans. I did head over to the Wizards Guild and seen a familiar face. Shino was there. I was truly surprised. I didn't know how long their kinds live, but it was good to see her. She didn't see me but a few inquiries, and it seems she's an adventurer. She saw me today in the Adventurers Guild. I was needing to reinforce some failing sigils, and she recognized me. How she could with my mask on, I don't know, but she did. She came over and we talked for a few hours. She had to go and hunt a dragon that had something they needed. I was curious since dragons are usually off limits for these adventurers, but it seemed in my slumber they've gotten more powerful. The Wizards Guild needed an old tome from the lair, so I volunteered to go. I'm not impressed with its lair. It was rather easy to get in, minor sigils of protection, really. I didn't get what item they were after, so I'm waiting here now for them to get here. The tome was a rambling of an old wizard. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. I waited a day. They weren't there, so I teleported to her. They were barely halfway to the lair. I brought them to it, and they were shot at the dead copper dragon. It was barely a millennia old. Impressing an orc isn't that hard. Dwarves I don't know about, but I did find it interesting a half-fiend or tiefling was in the party with Shino. They found the item and took some of the loot. Her and I talked. Apparently it was supposed to be a challenge. A couple of other groups tried and failed to get the item. I believe she was mad, but I'm not sure. I will admit to be distracted as she talked. I will admit to being bored. With no battles going on, I have nothing really to do. We just stay around here for the Master and can't really go anywhere. He's conducting his experiments. Always the experiments. I've been spending more and more time with the Shino. Apparently she came to this plane a century or so ago, tired of the plane she was on. She wanted to come here to help those that couldn't help themselves. Forgetting that time is off, the ones that she's seen when we did the parley were long dead. She found out about the adventures and decided to give it a try, traveling and helping people. Less focus on her fighting and more on her singing and performing. Her voice really is melodic, and the mask confirmed that there was no spells being cast. I had to leave for a while. Being an expert in portal creation and teleportation meant I was required on some island off the Sapphire Coast. Master set up a village for one of his advanced experiments. Jourral will be leading it. While he's a master at transmutation, his manners could be worked on for sure. Shino and I spent a few days since we don't know when we will be able to see each other again. She's going to investigate some rumors of a great evil stirring in the south by one of the dwarven kingdoms. I do wish I could stay here to watch over her. Her compatriots, while powerful for adventurers, couldn't help her if there was a big threat. A few miscellaneous entries about portal prep. It's been a long few weeks. The alien chain is interesting. A good fortnight sailing away from the coast. It's pretty isolated and with the added benefit of being able to hover in the air. We started setting up the camp. Joran and I are starting the spells for a teleportation gate. He wants a gate instead of a dais for ease. I personally don't care, as I can enchant either. The only downside is the sheer amount of time it will take me to make it permanent. Acolytes are clearing areas and setting up cabins. We brought woodsmen with us for the labor. The experiment is interesting. Joran let me see the plans. I don't fully agree with infusions, but it will help create soldiers for the line. Then why not? Let the mortals be of use. Looking around the islands, I found an old cave system. Going in, I found some geodes. Looking around the island, I found an old cave system. Going in, I found some geodes. Beautiful sapphires were growing inside. I took them back, and in my investigations, Joran's seen, and we both were excited at the properties of these gems. We've both gone back to harvest some more. Some miscellaneous small updates. It's been a little over a year. The gate is finished with a spare, and the encampment is set up. Joran will now be left alone to start the experiment. I'll be teleporting back to the mainland as soon as equipment is finished being brought through. I do hope that... Seems the old ways are still around. We got word that some Archons came and assaulted one of our towers. 5 companies of soldiers are being woken up now. Time to remind these fools what happens when they challenge us. The Rainbow Starfield is a target, a plane housing some minor deities that was used as a staging ground for the more well-known deities. Myself, Tahara, Kat, and Orage will be leading the assault. I do hope this won't take long. I have something for Shin, though. This is taking too long. The enemy is well entrenched. Tahara was being cheeky and was obviously fed up with them, so she opened a gate to the abyss and summoned forth a demonic host. I couldn't help but laugh at that, watching them scramble as a demonic host poured forth at their lines. I'm pretty sure that's going to cause issues for us later on, since we'll have to hunt them down, but for now, we're letting the 2 enemies fight. The demonic host gambit was a success. They lost a few miles of their lines. We opened a few more gates to cause more chaos. It seems this realm doesn't have the protections others have to prevent the demons from coming in. Their fault for the oversight. I did find it an interesting gem. It looks almost like an amethyst, but something is different about this one. I took it and will be looking at it further. For now, my focus must be on finishing this fight as fast as possible. The 4 of us are trading off. 2 fighting, 2 resting, so we don't overextend ourselves. It's been some time since I've been able to write. The campaign was a long one. We lost most of our troops and all of us are wounded. We drove the Celestials back into Keep and then commenced the bombardment. Within a day, we leveled it with all inside. Portals were blocked, so there was no survivors. We're resting in the Citadel for a while. I started tinkering with the gem I found. I know exactly what I want to make with it. Sketches of a large, heart-shaped amulet with metal bands around it, the top being a flame, titled The Heart of Resilience. I've been a bit distracted by the tinkering to write in here. The amulet is almost done. The enchantments just need to finish setting. I'll be heading back to Mertalodon soon to guard the Master again. Hopefully Shino has made it back safe. I haven't been able to send her any messages with the extraplanar jamming. The amulet is done. The enchantments took nicely and even were amplified more than I was expecting. Shino wasn't in town. I seen where she is via a scry, so I teleported close by. She seemed surprised that I was back, being gone almost a year again. We didn't have much time to catch up as they were hunting something. She asked if I wanted to come with and maybe help. I don't think some of her compatriots enjoyed that. They were after some creature. I'm not sure what it was, but they were struggling with a bit. I wasn't sure if they wanted to obliterate it or to capture it, as they were saying both. That doesn't matter, though, as it hit her with a spell. It very quickly fell after that, the body jellified. The half-devil in the party said she would be fine. It was only a minor attack. They looted the lair, I'm not sure why, as it was mostly coins and mundane gems. I made sure Sael was okay. The smile she gave me made me feel something weird. I don't know what it was, but she made sure I knew she was okay. It wasn't the hardest she's been hit recently. More and more dangerous creatures have been assaulting the mainland. I'll inquire at the guild when I get back. I'm staying here for now to make sure she doesn't get hurt more. This entry may be a little all over. They use horses to travel. Slow-moving creatures they are. Apparently that's how they always travel. So slow and tedious. And painful. We will be talking tonight. The talk was nice. We were by a small lake and went for a walk. I let her know I made her something and gave her the amulet. The look on her face was one of the best sights I've seen in a long time. She did something I didn't expect. She always seems to do that. She embraced me and kissed me in thanks. We sat and looked at the lake for a bit as she absentmindedly fiddled with the amulet as she filled me in with what she's been up to. Apparently, Daith Ulin's invaded the mainland. Another thing to inquire into when I get back. Perhaps we can use the cloud giant Master wanted trained a few years ago to end this. That night a few days ago still plays on my mind. The calm, serene moment compared to what I'm dealing with now. The blood war has pushed further into mainland. We've lost a great deal of land. Master isn't around, apparently taking one of the others to another plane to get some reinforcements. We can't intercede without his go-ahead. All we can do is work in the shadows. The ones sent to the front lines were called months ago. On the plus side, it's given more acolytes a chance to prove their worth and perhaps be elevated as seeker or a potential reclaimer. I've heard the rumors. It seems we are the ghosts in the shadows now. Visara let us know we will be initiating the Sanctuary Protocol now. Other planes have been chosen and we will be looking at adventurers to lead them through. Our army in the Citadel wouldn't be enough to push back the blood war now. The damn fools believing they needed their god's permission to do something like protect millions of lives and stop the spread of fiendish forces. They likely have doomed this entire plane to death. I do hope their gods die with them. I got some distressing news the other day. Sael and her group went to one of the layers of hell, apparently looking for something. They were surrounded and they were going to die. Luckily, the acolyte teleporting them there called for help. I immediately went. The little respect I had for their so-called warriors in her group was lost seeing what they were against. It was only a few greater devils and their minions. I was going to call for a ceasefire since the devils should have remembered what happened the last time they didn't listen to Reclaimer. Except Sael got hit. The heart opened and flared, signaling it was a grievous hit. Next thing I knew was all around the devils were dead as the group ran to the portal the acolyte had opened. While going through the portal, I swear I'd seen the telltale signs of the layer collapsing to be lost. It doesn't matter. She got out safe. Safe and sound and now resting even as I write this entry. It is a little hard to write with one hand. I've had to resort to using Mage Hand to do it as she's fallen asleep on me. The amulet had gotten its bands back around, so it's good she's recovering okay. Now I can appreciate how nice it feels to have her so close. The reports came in today. Vasar himself has told me what's going on. It seems one of the contingencies done was to get the war-loving Daith Ulinrenses to surge forward to attack the fiends. I don't know why we didn't just open portals to the Shadowlands, but orders are orders. The protocol is still in effect, which is distressing. The news of the protocol still on was distressing, but that's fine. Being summoned by Sael as she's going to help on the front lines and wanted to say goodbye wasn't okay. Knowing full well the defense line is a joke at this point, I tried to talk her out of it. She said it's her duty to do it. If I want to make sure she's safe, then why didn't I come with her? As she walked off, the dwarf in the party made a comment that was interesting. She likes you being around, laddie. Her mood always brightens when she talks about you. He then made a weird face as if he was going to be sick, so I walked away as I didn't want his illness on my robes. We are currently at a base camp as I teleported us. I think the commanders know of the feud between the fools of the clergy and the logical arcanum, but it matters not as long as Shino is safe. I don't know how long I'll be able to stay here, but I'll stay as long as I can. I'll work on the ring I started on. The sapphire from the floating islands will make an excellent accessory to the ring I've crafted. Master was back when we were all summoned. It took a bit of time since apparently some adventuring group found Elevor's ruined tower and broke the seal and assaulted her laboratory. They went to reclaim her missing items, but were under strict orders from the Master that they weren't to be harmed. Whatever the decision was, they were to be honored. Apparently this group chose to keep the items and continue. Right now the pool is up to 3 blaster cartridges that Elevor sicks one of her creatures on them once she recovers. It's a good thing her contingencies were still active. I can't say I'm surprised with the news. Mass had a plan for this all. He long ago got armies from other planes ready to help us. He seemed to have foreseen the Lost Lands. He brought in a new horde of dragons. I'm used to dealing with metallic and chromatic, but these ones come from a plane with more gemstones, so they've taken to those attributes. They came through using one of my daises. I'm glad the theory works so well. Already they are fighting at the front lines and helping drive back the forces there. I sent a message to Sael, but no reply as of yet. These new dragon kinds are fascinating. If they keep this up, then I believe we can retake the Lost Ages defense line. Hopefully this time we will be the ones in charge and actually hold it, since we are competent. I do worry about Sael. Her and her group are staying close to the front lines, which is far too dangerous. The devils and demons attack without thought on this plane. They don't care if they die here as long as they take someone out. I've gone through two cartridges for my blaster covering her. I had a meeting today with the master. The ship plans of an artificer we got to work on have been lost. Apparently his ship was lost in the Scourge Horde Wars fleet. The artificer survived, but we can't find the item, so they must be hidden. To make matters worse, another artificer that had the materials we needed from deep in the Shadowlands hasn't been heard from. We need those items to build what we need. Jourral hasn't been sending in reports, and the gate isn't working. To make matters worse, since the island's plane shift, teleporting in won't work. Master says these adventurers will get the items. Seeing them, I don't have confidence, but Master says they have something special. I'm not going to argue. My focus is on the Sanctuary Protocol. Final selections are being made for adventuring groups as civilians are being brought to teleportation areas. Between that and spending time with Sael, some inconsequential adventurers don't deserve too much thought. How could she do this? She put her group's name in for the protocol, with them being one of the few remaining powerful enough adventuring groups they were choosing. Now I must prepare for them for the journey and take them there. After a few long nights of talking, Sael won't be going there alone. I don't trust the others in her group to protect her. I'll be the reclaimer attached to make sure they can teleport back. All else fails, I'll take her to the Master's tower he has on this plane. I asked him if he has more information, but it's a long abandoned and forgotten tower. He doesn't recommend going there, as the security may have gone haywire. Plus, old experiments left behind may have caused issues. That will be the last plan. It won't come to that. A simple planar spell is easy enough a seeker could do it. That is the end of the journal. Some letters of note that were found on the table. Shino, I've spent the last few decades trying to fix your predicament. Nothing yet, but I fear there's another problem. I've noticed my body is starting to fail. I will start creating an item so you can use it to get home when you get fixed. It has been a few years and I've completed it. The scepter is made from auracite and it will help focus energy. The gem on the bottom has a spell put into it to open a portal. It's a one-use item. Soon as you use it, the gem will break. I can't guarantee the scepter surviving, but if it does, then it will make a good focus if you want to finally start your training in the arcane. I've recently checked on you. Your frame immobile and I worry for you. I can't risk getting too close. My body is failing more and more. I can't stop the change and I've already lost a considerable amount of power. I'm lucky Roirin has thought me long dead. Don't try to revive me if I do fall. Just get out of this place. Lately I've noticed a surge in energy around this place. At first I thought it was a standard fluctuation. I looked into it and it seems new arrivals have come. I lost track of them for a while. I'm guessing they are in the castle. I could look in, but there's no point piercing that for no real gain. Interesting. Years ago, some creatures wandered too close to the Master's tower. They spent some time around there and were changed. Generations later, and they wandered south. These newcomers have now been hunting one of these. For what reasons, I can only guess. I'm tempted to intervene and ask them where they come from and how they've gotten here before they're eaten. I visited you today. I had to teleport out since the newcomers actually took out one of the creatures. I investigated and figured since I was out, I'd visit. You weren't in the normal place. I'm curious as to why. The tower's acting up. A surge of energy has been happening to it, and it seems almost corroded some. I didn't think there was any more worshippers on this plane, but it seems a few have survived these years. This isn't the minor issue of them praying to their nature for their harvests. Something more is going on.